So, Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for giving me your valuable association. Um, so, yesterday we stopped at Shloka 7, chapter 2, Shloka number 7, as we saw that it was the turning point for Arjuna. So, Arjuna in, like 2.7, we'll see that how one of the last reasons Arjuna gives why he is not able to fight. See, that is, he had indecision. So he was not able to decide properly whether to fight or not to fight. Okay, he was having this confusion. Like, if I fight, and if I fight, I might lose, I might win. But even if I win, it's as good as not having the kingdom, because I'll be winning the kingdom at the cost of killing my brothers, the Kauravas. So my hands will be full of bloodshed. So what is the use of such kind of victory, even though I win? But if he does not fight, what he has to do, he has to refrain, he has to go away from the battlefield and go to the forest and live by begging. So now that's why Arjuna is in a confusion, he's in a dilemma. He's not able to know what to do. So we saw right in the shloka. So when we are in doubt, when we are faced with perplexities of material life, so whom do we have to go? We have to seek for a spiritual master. Okay, a spiritual master, he's well versed in all the spiritual and material problems. He can give us the solution to everything, right? So here, who can be a good spiritual master than Krishna himself? He's the Param Guru, right? So here, Arjuna, he's taking shelter of Krishna. He's saying that, Krishna, now I'm accepting you as my guru. Till now, they were having friendly discussions, like as a friend, between friends. Arjuna and Krishna they were arguing like friends. But now, because when you argue between friends, you never come to a decision. So Arjuna, now he wanted to be serious. He wanted to stop all this friendly talk, and so now he says, Krishna, I'm surrendering to you. I'm taking shelter of you. I'm accepting you as your guru. So please guide me. I'm confused now what to do. Please tell me what my correct duty is. And then he surrenders. He said, please accept me as my disciple, as your disciple. Okay. So now we'll see now what happens from shloka 2.8. So actually 2.8 is not given here. 8 to 10 is not given. So we'll just try to read it from the book. Okay. I'll just try to explain the translations and everything. Okay. 2.8. So translation, he says, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. Okay? So here, Arjuna is saying that, see, there is no other means to drive away the grief. The only way that your grief can go away is you take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master like Krishna. See, all this, what do we think, like academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, all these are useless in solving problems of life. Okay, so only real help we can get only by taking help of a spiritual master like Krishna. See, what are the problems that we have in material existence? We generally think problems in material existence means all these small problems. Oh, my tublet is not working, my tap is not working, my geyser is not working, water problem is there. So all we think these are problems. I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that, electricity is not there. So we think these are the problems of like material existence. See, these problems some may have, some may not have, right? But what are the problems of material existence that everybody has, right? We have to see that what is common to everybody. So what is the common problem in material existence that we have? That is birth, death, old age, disease. See, nobody can escape these four, right? Even he be a poor person, rich person, black person, white person, whether it's Indian, American. So he has all these, right? Birth, old age, disease, and death. He has all these problems. So they like you can't escape these problems by saying that, oh, I'm very rich, then that's why I can't get these problems, right? So because we've seen that there are many states, like America, for instance, you take, they are wealthy, they have all the facilities, yet the problems of material existence are still there. See, they undergo old age, they undergo disease, they undergo death. So all these problems they face, right? See, they all are seeking peace, but real happiness can be achieved only when you take the shelter of Krishna. So that's what they're saying in Shloka 8. Now let's go to Shloka number 9. What does the translation say there? So Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and he fell silent. So now, when Sanjaya was telling this to Dhritarashtra, that Arjuna told all this and now he is saying that he won't fight. So Dhritarashtra was very happy. That is what he wanted, right? He didn't want a fight and he wanted the whole kingdom for his son. So that he was very happy. So when he knew that Arjuna was not going to fight, instead he is ready to go to the forest and live by begging. But Sanjaya once again disappointed him by saying that, see, it is appearing that for the time being that Arjuna is not fighting, right? So but because why he's not fighting, because he's attached to the bodies of his relatives, okay? But now he surrendered to Krishna. Krishna has accepted Arjuna as his disciple. So what does this mean? That Arjuna would soon be free from all the ignorance now. So he will know what is right, what is wrong, and what to do and what not to do, because he's accepted Krishna as his guru now. He will, all his ignorance will go away, right? This means that he would soon be free from all that family affection, and he will be enlightened with the perfect knowledge of self realization or Krishna consciousness. And then, definitely, with that knowledge, he will surely fight. Okay, and so Sanjay was telling, was thinking indirectly that Dhritarashtra's joy will be frustrated. Okay, so Dhritarashtra was happy. Oh, nice, so nice. Arjuna is not fighting. But Sanjay is thinking in his mind of minds, don't worry, for now it is looking like that. But because Arjuna has taken shelter of Krishna, all his ignorance will go away, and he will know what his responsibility is. He will lose all his material attachment towards his relatives, to the bodies of relatives, and he will surely fight. Okay, so that is what he's saying here. Now let's see in the 10th shloka what the translation is saying. So, O descendant of Bharata, at that time, smiling in midst of both the armies, uh, Krishna, he spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Okay, so now Arjuna, he sat down, right? He is so feeling so, he is crying and out of compassion for his, because he will have to kill. So now at that condition, now Arjuna, Krishna is speaking to the grief-stricken Arjuna. See, now Krishna again starts with a strong dose. Don't think because Arjuna is depressed and all like that, Krishna will console him. So now again Krishna, he starts with a strong dose. Okay, so now we saw this, right? So in the 11th shloka, see, yeah, he will start chastising. See, now 11th shloka is a very important shloka. We can memorize this shloka. So actually from 11 to 30 shlokas, if you see, Krishna is giving gnana about the soul. So he tells the differences between the soul and the body. Okay, so now from the 11th shloka we'll see. So 11th shloka is also important shloka. We can memorize this shloka. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Pragnavadansh Bhashase Gatasun Agatasuncha Nanushocanti Panditaha. So, what is he saying? What is Krishna saying? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So, what is Krishna saying? See, now again, that's what he spoke, right? Now, Krishna is again started chastising. He's giving a strong dose to Arjuna. See, Arjuna, you're thinking you're talking like a great Pandit, but you're fool number one. Okay, because a learned man, he never laments at any stage. See, we have this chart in the next day, next thing. Yeah, you can see this. Okay, a learned man, he never laments at any stage for the body, even when it is living or dead. He has knowledge about soul and body. So, a learned man, if you see in the PPT, he has he knows what the difference between a body and a soul. Okay, so he knows that the body is born today, and one day, today or tomorrow, it is destined to be destroyed. Okay, so therefore, the soul is more important than the body. So, one who knows this reason does not lament. So, one who knows this difference is a learned man. But since Arjuna didn't have the knowledge of soul, body, and super soul, that is the reason he's lamenting about the bodies of relatives. Okay, but one who knows the concept of soul, he never laments because soul never dies and we are souls, right? So, because Arjuna, the only reason he was lamenting about the bodies of his relatives is he didn't have the concept of that soul. Soul is eternal, okay, and we are soul, we are not the body, right? The body is, it comes in this material world, it is born and it has to die, it is temporary. So it comes into existence, it has to die at a certain point of time, because anything in this material world is temporary. It has a start date and it has a end date. I mean, like it has even though it's a even though it's a living beings or objects, they have a start and end date, expiry date. That's why they mentioned, right? So they have an expiry date. Even if you take a cell phone also, it has a expiry date. It can work for only so many years, and then after that you have to throw away that old phone and you have to buy a new one, right? Okay, that's the thing. That's what the Krishna is trying to say. See, you don't worry. You are thinking you're killing the bodies, but the body is destined to die, and we are not the body. We are souls, which is eternal. They don't die. So please try to understand that Arjuna, Krishna is trying to say in shloka number 11. So here in the PPT you see, right, Krishna is chastising Arjuna. Saying Arjuna that you're talking like a learned man, but you're a fool. Spiritually, you're a fool. But please don't think Arjuna is a fool. He is actually put under Yoga Maya for all of us. Krishna is using Arjuna as the instrument. He knows all these, he knows everything. But still, the Bhagavad Gita has to come out for all of us through Arjuna. So Arjuna is just an instrument. So when we say if he's a fool, don't literally think he's really Agnani, ignorance, and all that. Okay, please don't think like that. He is just portraying himself as he's just acting out there so that the Bhagavad Gita can come out for all of us through Krishna. He is just an instrument there. Okay, so here Krishna, so that's why he's chastising Arjuna. He's saying, you're talking like a learned man. You're thinking, oh, by not killing, I'm doing such a great, noble act, and I will go to heaven. If I kill, I will go to hell. No, actually, you're behaving like a fool. Spiritually, you have no knowledge, but you're still behaving like a learned man. Actually, who is a learned man? You know, who knows the difference between soul and body. Okay, so he knows that soul is eternal, Okay, it never dies. The body is temporary and it is born and it is prone to die at a certain point of time. Okay, so a learned man, he knows the difference between soul and so he knows the difference between matter and spirit, body and soul. He knows that difference. He knows the difference between body is temporary and soul is eternal, and he does not lament for the body whether it is dead or alive. See, even though he does not cry or rejoice for the body if it is there or if it is dead, if it is dead or alive. So body is born and it is destined to die. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. So a learned man knows the difference between soul and body. And who is the controller of both these? It is Krishna. So Krishna is the controller. He is the one, right, who created both the material and the spiritual worlds. Right? He is the controller of all. He is the cause of all causes. He is the controller of both the matter and spirit. Okay. So that is what is being said in Shloka 11. Now let's go to Shloka 12. Okay. So this is also a shloka we can memorize. Shloka number 12. Natu eva ham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipa nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayam ataha param. So what is Krishna telling Arjuna here in the translation? Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So, what is Krishna saying here? So, Krishna is saying we always existed. Who? You, I, all these kings, everybody on in this battlefield, they all existed in the past, they are at present, and they will continue to exist in the future. Okay, so you, I, and all the kings will never be destroyed. But that is what Arjuna was lamenting about, right? He's lamenting about the bodies. Okay, so Krishna is telling, see, you and all the kings will always exist. Okay, we will never be destroyed. See, but the only difference is we have to see that though we are all existing, so Krishna is existing, Arjuna will exist, all the people on the battlefield will exist, but the only difference is Krishna is the maintainer of all living entities and we all are maintained. So we see that shloka Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. See, Eko, that Eko, who's that Ekaha? Who's that one? That is Krishna. He is maintaining whom? Bahunam. Bahunam is people like us, living entities. So he is maintaining all of us. We may be eternal. Nityo Nityanam. We may be Nitya, eternal. Chetanas Chetananam. We may be full of knowledge. We may be knowledgeable. But what is the difference between Krishna and us? Krishna is the maintainer and we are the maintained. So, Krishna is also saying, what is he saying here? We are all eternal individual beings, be it in the, see, he's saying in the conditioned stage and in the liberated stage. See, we are individuals. That is what Krishna is trying to say. Okay, so we are individuals now, and in the past also we were individuals, and in the future, even after liberation also, we will have our separate individuality. Okay, so therefore Krishna is saying you don't have to cry. They will not die, only their bodies will die. The soul is eternal, they will be there. Okay, so you don't lament, because why this particularly Krishna is saying is after liberation also we will remain individual, because some people, you know, the gnanis, they think that after liberation, when they merge into that impersonal Brahma Jyoti, For some people, God is like impersonal. He has no form. So what do they think? After liberation, they will merge into that light, impersonal form. They will merge into that light, and they will merge and they'll become one with God. It means they're saying we will lose they will have no individuality. Okay, that is not the case. That is wrong. That is what Krishna himself is saying personally. We are going to maintain our individuality even after liberation. It's unlike the jnanis who say that after liberation we will merge into that impersonal Brahma Jyoti and we will become one with God and we will lose our individuality. No, that is wrong. So Krishna is saying we were individuals in the past, we are at present, and we will be in the present even after liberation also. We will maintain our individuality. So Krishna is giving that clarity. Okay. So now let's see shloka number 13. So this is also a very important shloka. We can memorize this shloka. देहिनो अस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिर्धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति. Okay, so what? Let's see the translation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Okay, so we see here, so Prabhupada says in the purport, see, a soul passes in this body from childhood. Okay, you can see in the picture, right? The soul, it passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age. Okay, the soul does not undergo any change. See, you see, the soul is shown in yellow color. This soul never changes. So only we can see the changes happening only in the body. Okay, so the body goes from childhood to boyhood, boyhood to youth to adult, adult, and to old age, like that. Different phases, right? But the soul never undergoes any change. Okay, so if we see in this body itself, when we are alive itself, we are seeing so many change of bodies. Okay, but see, many changes we see, like childhood when we were a baby, baby to infancy, infancy to childhood. I mean, then youthhood, then boyhood, then youth, and then adult, then old man. So here itself, we are changing so many bodies when we see itself, but we don't recognize that it is change of body. We think we have grown in height. That's what it is, the same body, but we are just growing height in height, we think. But there is change of body, total change of body. The soul is taking a new body. There is a change of body, but which we are not able to recognize. We think, oh, I've grown height from baby to a boy, boy to youth, I've grown in height. Actually, that is not the case. We have got a total new body. So we are changing bodies um, when we are alive itself. We can see that we are changing bodies. And what is the last change that we see? Final change that we see is it happens at the change of death. Okay, and the soul takes another fresh body. Okay, that is the final change. See, when we are alive itself, we see so many changes in the body. And what is the last change? Last change we see at death. Okay, where the soul is transferred to a totally new body. So it is not with the same body. It goes to another new. It takes another new body. Okay, so here Krishna is saying, so there is no cause for lamentation. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, see that Bhishma and Dronacharya, they don't die now. You are saying you're going to kill them. No, they don't die. Rather, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you should be happy that they are changing their old body. See, now they are old. They don't have energy. Dronacharya and Bhishma, they're old, right? They are old. In fact, see, if you kill them, I mean, they don't die, but even if they die, you are actually giving them a new body. You are giving them a new, fresh, energized body. So children have more energy than old people, right? So you should be happy that you are giving a new body, new energetic body to Bhishma and Dronacharya. Okay, so actually, when the change of body happens, like when you take a new body, you get a body that is according to your karma. So the new body that you get is per your karma. Depending on what you have done in your past janma, you get a body in your new, depending on your karma, you get a new body. So Bhishma and Drona, obviously they are noble souls. They will surely get spiritual bodies in their next life. Okay, if not at least spiritual bodies, since they are noble, they will at least they will at least be able to live a life in heavenly planets for the superior enjoyment of in heavenly planets, and they will enjoy their life there. So Krishna is telling, in either case you don't have to lament, is telling, because either when you kill them, their souls, they will not die. Okay, even if they die, they will go to heavenly planets, or they will get a spiritual, they'll get spiritual bodies. So either ways you don't have to lament, so get up and fight. That's what Krishna is telling in this thing. So that is what we have to understand. Now let's go to 14. So this is also a very important shloka we can memorize. Very, very important shloka. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada agama paino anityastans titikshasva bharata. So, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O Scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Very, very important shloka for us in life. Okay, so now, so Krishna is saying what? I mean, before we go to that, see, now Arjuna may say to Krishna, okay, Krishna, you are saying that bodies will change, fine, but we have feelings towards this body, right? See, after they die, you're saying they will take a fresh body, you should feel happy for that. But when we were in this previous Janma, when the relatives or my husband, wife, children, when they are there with us, they spend a lot of time with us. And after they leave the body, we have feelings towards that body, right? Because we have developed a relationship with our relatives. So obviously, when they die, we cry and we do all that. So we have feelings. What about that? There will be pain. There will be emotions. So what is Krishna saying? Yeah, what you say is right. You have pain. You have emotions. But listen, please listen. You have to learn to tolerate the pain. Okay, that is what we have to do. Learn to tolerate the pain. So in this Prakriti, everything is prone to change. Okay, Krishna is explaining. You see, in this material nature, whatever object or whatever living being, anything that you take is prone to change. For example, if we see the climate, is it always hot or is it always cold? No, right? After summer comes rainy season, after rainy season comes winter. So the weather keeps changing. So, like that, our body also changes. So, change is the quality or symptom of this material nature. Okay, be it object or living beings. See, for example, if you take the cell phone, see, when it is new, it works very well. But after 2 or 3 months, does it work like a new phone, the phone you got it initially? everything, the performance reduces, right? Gradually, as it passes by 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, performance reduces day by day, right? So it will not function the same way as it was when it was new, right? So everything in this material world will change for sure. It will not remain the same. It is not permanent. Okay, it is temporary. So that's what Krishna is saying. You learn to tolerate this change. Okay, so just like seasons, see, after summer, rainy season comes, winter, but you should not feel distressed. You should not think, array, it is too hot now, what to do? No, you should learn to tolerate. After some time, that heat will go away, right? Or if it is hot, if you think it is hot, what do? You wear a cap or you put an umbrella, okay, like that. See, for instance, in summer, the ladies don't say, the ladies of the house, they don't say in April or May, because it's hot, I won't go to the stove and I won't cook. Even though it is hot, they cook, right? They tolerate and they cook, right? As it is, they don't say the stove, the fire is coming, it's very hot, and outside also it's hot, I won't cook. They don't say like that, right? They tolerate, and even in summer also they cook. So, like that, see, after 2 months of summer will go away, the rainy season will come. And too much rain is again a problem. We don't like too much rain, right? The roads become muddy. There's so much water, so many mosquitoes. But what we should do? We should learn to tolerate. So this too will pass. Then winter will come. Then it is cold. There's many people don't like winter season. It is very cold. But you have to learn to tolerate. What you have to do? You wear a sweater. Okay, so you have to learn to tolerate change if you want to stay in this material world, because this material world is prone to changes. Okay, just like this body changes, everything changes. So, like that, we have problems, difficulties. It is not that we are always happy in this material world. So, everybody has to face problems, difficulties. See, even though we may have plenty of wealth, doesn't mean, many people think that if I have wealth, riches, and everything, I will be happy. Some people think, oh, he's so rich, that is why he's so happy. I don't have money. If I have that much money now, I will be so happy. But you don't know what is going on in that the rich person's life. He may have got some disease where, though he has so much money, maybe he's using all that money on the expenses for the doctor, medicine, everything. Because of that disease, he's not able to eat anything. So how much problem he's facing? So every living entity, he has to undergo these four problems: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. So there will be no person who says, I have no problems, I have no disease, I have no old age. So everybody, however rich he may be, he has to undergo these problems, difficulties, like example, disease, like that. So it doesn't see whether you're rich or poor. The disease or whatever, the old age doesn't see whether you're rich or poor. So every living entity has to face these four problems in life. So what is Krishna telling Arjuna? See, you should not be afraid of change. So you should not cry. So with this gnana, you see. So that is why Krishna is giving this knowledge. See, nothing is permanent in this world. Okay, so if you have too much comforts, don't be happy, because after some time that happiness will go away. Okay, if you have too much distress, don't worry. After some time, that distress will also go away. So everything will pass by. But it is only that it all. I mean, like, it's like, what do you say? Only time variation may be there. Okay, some people may have good karma, more of good karma, so they will enjoy more, they will get more enjoyment and less troubles. So the ratio may change, but everybody has different type of karma. They have to enjoy or suffer. depending on the good or bad they have done. But they have to undergo that change for sure. Okay, so what we have to learn is if we do good now, if we behave well now, our future will be good. So that we have to learn from Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have to learn to tolerate. So Krishna is calling Arjuna, if you see in the shloka, as two people, as Kaunteya and Bharata. So Kaunteya signifies that he is the son of Kunti, right? So he has got blood relationship from the mother's side. And Bharata means he is coming from his father's side. So Krishna is saying, so you have come from such a great heritage. And if you are from such a great heritage, you have greater responsibilities. So when you have great responsibility, you should do your responsibility, you should do your duty, your responsibilities properly. Okay, so what is your responsibility now? You have to do your dharma now, right? If you are coming from such a great lineage, great heritage, you should never forgo your responsibilities, duties. You have to do your duties. You have that your duty is as a kshatriya, you have to fight. So get up and fight. And see, you have to but you are not fighting because they are your relatives, but you have to learn to tolerate and perform your duty of fighting, even though you are fighting against your friends or relatives. So you have to learn to tolerate. So that's what Krishna is trying to say in this 14th shloka. So now let's go to the 15th shloka. So in the translation, you can see what Prabhupada is saying is, oh, best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Okay, so who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So Prabhupada, in his purport says that generally in Varnashrama or the fourth stage of life, we have four stages, right? Brahmachari, Brahmacharya and Grihastha and Varnashrama and Sannyasa. These are the four stages of ashramas we have. Okay, so sannyasa is the fourth stage of life. So that sannyasa stage is very painful and difficult. Why? Because he has to give off his family relationship. Till now, he was in grihastha, vanaprastha life along with wife and children, everybody. So now in sannyas, he has to give up all his family relationship with his wife, children, parents, everything. So he has to give up all his connections. But if anyone is able to tolerate that pain, all those difficulties, he is sure to get liberated. Okay, so similarly, Arjuna is advised by Krishna to tolerate and perform his duty as a Kshatriya and fight with his family members, though it is difficult. Okay, right? So even if we see Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas at the age of 24 and he left his old widowed mother and his young wife. She was just 14 years old. Okay, and they had no one else to look after them. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for a higher cause, he took sannyas. Why? To spread Krishna consciousness. Okay, so this is the way of achieving liberation. Okay, it's from material bondage. So we have to take that austerity. Okay, it is definitely difficult, but one who can tolerate that will surely, he is certainly eligible for liberation. Okay, so that is said here. Let's go to the next shloka, 16. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, that is the material body, it is temporary, right? There is no endurance, and of the eternal, so the soul is eternal, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of the both. So here, the seers of the truth, those who have seen the truth, they are saying that body is always changing. So we know that now, right? The body is always changing, but the soul is permanent. Inside the soul is permanent. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, so you're lamenting for something temporary. So he's just lamenting for the outside material bodies of the relatives, which are temporary, because they are prone to change. They will have to die at some point of time. If Arjuna doesn't kill now, doesn't mean they will always remain forever in this material world. At some point of time, they will have to leave their bodies, right? Okay, because it is temporary. Not today, tomorrow, their bodies will be destroyed. But what is permanent is the soul, spirit soul, Atma is permanent. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, you don't have to worry. Okay, they are there forever. It's only that the bodies are being killed. The soul, we are the souls, we are not the body. So the soul will live forever. So you don't have to worry. Okay, so that's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Now let's go to 17. 17, it is given in Kannada here. So I will try to read from here the translation by Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Prabhupada translates it as that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. Indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Okay. So, Krishna is saying nobody will be able to destroy that soul. So, Atma, the spirit soul is present in the heart. We all know that the spirit soul is present in the heart along with the super soul. So how do we know that the soul is present? Okay, it is through consciousness. The consciousness is spread all over the body. See, we can't see the soul with our eyes. Okay, we can't destroy the soul. So if someone dies, it is only the body that. Hello. Yeah, ఎక్కడి నుంచి అండి? Not interested. Sorry. So, so how do we know that the soul is present? It is because of the consciousness. So this consciousness is spread throughout the body. Okay, even though the soul is so infinitesimal, very, very small, but its consciousness is spread throughout the body. So we can't see the soul with our eyes. So we can't destroy the soul. Okay, so if someone dies, it is only the body that dies, the soul never dies. Okay, so Krishna is telling this to Arjuna. Okay, see, if we see when body is dead, it is only the outward gross body that is dead, but the soul never dies. Soul which is in the heart, it never dies. So that can never be destroyed. It is only the body that is destroyed. So this Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. He's telling Arjuna, understand this Atma Tattva, the concept of the soul you understand. So you are soul and not this body. And body is temporary, but soul is permanent. The body moves because of the presence of the soul. Okay, so the body is alive means the soul is there, that consciousness is there. Okay. See, for instance, if there is a dead body, will it move? Or will it have any effect if I kick the dead body, or if I pinch the dead body, or if I pull the hair of the dead body? Will it react? No, right? Because there is no spirit soul in it. See, if we see some, if someone dies, if we go to some funeral, and if we see some person is dead, we say the person is dead. Seeing, but it is the same person, right? And it is the same body that is there. Then why are we crying that that person has left us and gone? See, when he was alive, also that body only we spoke to, we did everything, we conversed, everything we did. Now the same body is lying down. Why are we saying that body, he has died now? Okay, so what? Then who is gone? We are crying now. He's left us and gone. And who is gone? It is this soul that is gone. So body and soul are separate. Okay. So can we have any relationship with the dead body? Okay, so it is the same body that we had a relationship with till now, right? So why don't we continue to and maintain? See, till now, when the body was alive, walking, talking, and everything they were doing nicely, they did. They spoke everything they did. But now, when he's lying, the same person they don't want to live with now. In the same room, they don't want to live. They've lived and they've were together. Now they don't want. They get scared seeing the body. It's the same body, right? Still, but why? Because actually we had the relationship with the soul inside the body. As soon as that soul leaves the body, it is like it's a dead body. Okay, we have no. It has the consciousness is gone from the body because the soul has left that body. So all this while we were having a relationship with the soul and not with the body. So, as when the soul leaves the body, that's when we say he has left us and gone. Because the body is always there. Right now, also when you're dead, the body is there. Now, why are you saying then, oh, that person has left me and went away? If you think still the body is the thing, that is the main thing. When he was standing, when he was alive, you said you spoke, you were in the same room, you were quite fine that time. But now you're saying when he's lying dead here, now you're saying, oh, he's gone away, he's gone away. And you would you be ready to live with the dead body in the same room? You get scared. Why? It's the same body, right? So it means that all these years that we have spent with that person is with this, we had a relationship with the soul, not the body. Okay? That's what they're trying to do. See, now if a boy he loves the girl, the relationship of the girl is with the atma, not with the body. See, if she's dead now, will he love her still? Will he go and put the dead body in the house and will he still continue with her? No, right? So the relationship that we form is not with the body, we form with the soul. Okay, so that's why when the soul leaves the body and goes away, then we start lamenting. Oh, he has left us and gone away. That's when we start crying. Okay, so here Krishna is clarifying what is gone, who is gone. Okay, so in any living entity, see, along with the soul, super soul also stays. So Krishna is telling that which is spread all over the body. What is that spread all over the body? That consciousness is the nature of the soul. So, how do we know the soul is present? Because of that consciousness. So, when that soul is present only, if somebody pulls your hair or slaps you or pinches you, you will react immediately. Hey, why did you slap me? Why did you pinch me? You will react because you are able to feel that consciousness because the soul is present. Okay, so it means that if a person is still present, it means the atma is still present. Okay, so the size of the soul is so small. It is described. The soul is like 1/10,000 part of the upper portion, the tip of the hair. It is so small. Okay, so we cannot see it with any microscope. Because microscope is a material instrument, right? So any kind of material instrument we cannot see, because soul is spiritual by nature, right? So spiritual things we cannot see with the material eyes or material instruments. Okay, so body is separate. We should understand that the body is separate, soul is separate. So we cannot see a spirit soul using material things. So it is not possible. Okay, now let's go to the 18th shloka. So 18th is also given in Kannada. So I will try to read it in English. Yeah, translation by Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Okay, so now Krishna is telling Arjuna, see, this body is not permanent. Someday this body will perish. So, to save the body that is temporary, what you are doing? You're going against Dharma. You're not fighting. So, this is not justified. So, that is why you have to fight Arjuna. So, you are thinking that if I fight, they will die. See, even if you don't fight, tell me, are their bodies permanent? Are they going to live forever? No, right? Someday the body has to go. Either when the body becomes old, the soul has to leave that body. So you can't stop that. Then why do you hesitate to do your duty? So anyways, this body is not permanent. Atma is permanent, and you can't kill the soul. So you do your duty. For that, you're going against your dharma. They will anyway have to die at any point of time. If not now, later also they have to. They can't permanently stay there, right? Here in this material world. So you do your dharma. Your dharma as a kshatriya is to fight. So you fight. So let's go to 19. Okay. So neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. So here Krishna is saying, actually, a clever person, he understands that the soul can never be killed. Okay, it is just the body that is destroyed. Okay, so here what Krishna is saying, you cannot slay the soul, or you cannot, I mean, what is that? He cannot slay or cut somebody, or he cannot be slain. Either ways, you can see in the picture, right? So that is what they are trying to say. The soul cannot be killed or is supposed to be killed. Okay, what is being killed is just the body that is being killed. You can't kill the soul. Okay, so we may say that, oh, okay, I'm not killing the soul, so I will go on killing animals. Now this is not encouraged. See, now people may say that, okay, I'm not killing the body of the animal. So body anyway, it is prone to die somewhere today or tomorrow. The soul is permanent, right? Even the animal has soul. So I'm not killing the animal then. So this does not mean that we kill all the animals and we eat them. So that is punishable by the state. Okay, so that is an offense. We should not, right here in the translation, purport, Prabhupada says, see, the way, what do you say? See, this, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Ma himsayat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. So, killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of state as well as by the law of the Lord. So, Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. So, Arjuna, he is a Kshatriya, right? Okay. Yeah. So Arjuna, he's a Kshatriya. He's not just killing for fun, right? So he's killing for dharma. So in a dharmic way, he is supposed to get his kingdom. He's not getting it. So he's fighting for dharma. So he's a Kshatriya. You know, Tal Pegar ki. So he's a Kshatriya. His duty is to fight, like to establish dharma. So he's fighting for that purpose. Okay, he's killing for that purpose. He's not just for fun. He's not killing. But we should not encourage animal slaughter just to satisfy our tongue. That is not acceptable. That we have to understand. Even though some people may say after listening to this, oh, I'm not killing the animal of the soul. The soul is permanent. Only the body will die. The body anyway will perish after some time. That is why I will kill and eat it. No, that is not encourageable. That's what they are saying. You should not kill just for the sake of killing. Only people who can kill are the Kshatriyas or who have authority to establish dharma for some safe cause. They can kill. Okay, that too for a correct reason, for a dharmic reason. Okay, so that's the thing. So now let's go to the 20th shloka. Okay, this is also a very important shloka. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So, translation by Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. Okay? He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Okay, it's very important. See, what Krishna is saying is for the soul, there is no birth, death, no death. See, only the body has birth and death. Okay, the soul never changes. So, when the soul enters a new body, it means that is called birth. And when it dies, what is death? Death is like soul leaving the body and going away. Okay, that is death. That's all. So body is destroyed, is killed, but or destroyed, whatever, but soul is never destroyed. Okay, the soul is there from a long time. It is eternal. Not that it will be born, it will die after some time. The soul is eternal. It was there in the present, it will be there. In the future, it will be there. It is not that it is born. It has been there from a long time. It is eternal. So after some time, we should not think that now it is born, the soul is born now, after some time it will die. No, it is there from a long time. It will be there in the future too. So when the body dies, the Atma doesn't die. So many people, what do they think? After this body, everything is finished. With this body, everything is over, nothing is there. So let me enjoy to my fullest by stealing or by doing somehow this or that, by hook or by crook. I want to enjoy this life. I don't want to follow any rules and regulations. They think that this body is final. After this body, there is nothing. But they don't understand that there is a soul. That is what we are. And this soul, it carries the impression what good, what bad we have done, and it transfers to the next janma. Depending on that, we get another body. So that we have to understand. Now let's go to shloka number 21. Okay. Okay. So translation. Let's see the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone? or cause anyone to kill. So, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Okay, so here they're saying that soul cannot kill or it cannot be killed. Okay, so those who understand that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and it is immortal, right? So he will not kill anyone, or nor no one can kill you. Okay, so then anybody, we can say that anybody can kill anybody and say, I didn't kill you, I only killed your body, right? So if we say this, and now everybody in the world will say, see, I didn't kill you, you are eternal, I just killed your body. Okay, that's what he spoke in the earlier shloka, right? So no, we can't do that. So only one person has a right to do that. That only the kshatriyas can do that. See, it is the duty of a kshatriya to kill. So Prabhupada writes, a king can punish a criminal or a murderer, right? It's not that that person is doing wrong, I will go and stab him, I will punish him. No, not anybody and everybody can go and punish or whatever you think is right or wrong. There is one person who does all this. It's the king. Only a king has the right to do all this. Not any person and every person can go and say that, okay, I am saying that this person is doing wrong, I will kill him, this is the punishment for him. Or you go, someone else says that, oh, this person has done this wrong thing, I will kill him now. Not like that. Not anybody and everybody can go and kill. So only one person has that right. Only Kshatriyas can do that. Okay, so a king can punish a criminal or a murderer. So he can sentence him to death by hanging him. So we may think, why the king is giving such a punishment? Why should we hang him? This is sinful. Okay, he killed someone, but why should you hang him? You know what is the reason? Because if we leave him, if we just give him a punishment and we leave him, he will kill more people. He will kill 10 more people now. So it is the duty of the king to protect the people. So if the king doesn't hang him, what will others think? Oh, this is just punishment. The king will just give punishment and he will leave me. Again, I can continue. So everybody will become a murderer then. Okay, because they will have no fear. Just a small punishment in the jail and then we'll come out. Again, we can kill. So they will not have fear. So that is why, see, and that is why the king, he gives that murder because he killed somebody. He has to get the same punishment. He is hanged for that. And one more important thing is, if the person who is murdered is not hanged, he will have to go to hell and bear harsh, severe punishments. Okay, but if he is hanged here in this Janma itself, it will become balanced, it will become leveled. See, he killed one person and he is also hanged. The person also got hanged. So it is now balanced, it is leveled now. So in the next Janma, he will not have to undergo this hellish punishment. So in the next Janma, what happens? He will have to suffer with interest. See, the future, it adds, it keeps adding. The more time is elapsing, the more it's like interest, it gets compounded. He has to pay more punishment. But if it is done now itself, and it's over, it's balanced. Okay, so the punishment will be reduced. So that is why it is good for the murderer, and it is good for the people also, right? So to establish peace in the kingdom, it is the duty of the king to do like that. See, but generally nowadays, what people they think, oh, why unnecessarily they're hanging him. Nowadays people think, they show sympathy. But if he is not hanged, he will go and kill another 10 or 100 or 1,000 people. So that is why such murderers, they should be hanged. So it is good for him and it is good for everyone. See, now we see if a person has cancer and that tumor has to be removed from the hand. Okay, or else they will have to cut the hand, because if they don't remember that remove the tumor, it'll spread throughout the body, and maybe there'll be one fine day that he will have to leave his body. So to save that person, what he does, the doctor, he just at least removes the hand, that part, or where the tumor is there, that part. Otherwise, if he doesn't cut that part, it will spread throughout the whole body. So like that, the king has to hang the murderer, okay, to maintain peace in the society. But that thing only the king should do, but not anybody and everybody should not do it. Because it is the duty of only a Kshatriya. Now, I mean, Kshatriya those days were kings. Now it is the police. Only the police can kill. He has a revolver in his hand. Okay, so he has that's why he has a revolver, right? So now, so one more point is, we may think that when we kill the body, right? But who are we? We are not the body. We are soul. Okay, this body is just like a machine. It's like a dress for the soul. In this Janma, we got the dress of a human body. And this human body has got a purpose. What is that purpose? Our goal is to go back to Godhead. But see, it's such a rare type of machine. The soul is this dress we've got, human body dress. Okay. But if somebody kills our body, that is why it is sin. Okay, why? Because it's causing a hindrance to our spiritual journey. See, with this body only, we are doing all this sadhana, right? We are able to hear this Bhagavatam class. We are able to chant the 16 rounds of japa. We are able to read Prabhupada books. We are able to hear the Vaishnavas. We are able to do some seva, because the soul has taken this human body. But if somebody kills this body, how will we practice? How will we continue our spiritual journey? It is being stopped, right? So that is why when somebody kills the human body, they get punishment, because they're obstructing a spiritual journey. So that is why we can't kill anybody and everybody. Okay, this human body is for that purpose. But if they are not using that body to go back to Godhead and killing others, that's why he should be punished. He should be hanged. If he is using it for some other purpose, rather than to continue a spiritual journey, he should be hanged and punished. So, who will do that? If they inform the police, they will do it. So, we should not misuse this knowledge that it's the body that is being killed and not the soul, and we are the soul, we are still there, and we should not go and kill everybody, and we should not misuse this knowledge. Right? Only correctly should only the Kshatriyas or police, they should use it. Okay. Okay, so we should not misuse this knowledge. So Krishna is he's giving this knowledge so we can make use of it. I mean, sorry, Prabhupada is telling as in the purport, so that we can make use of it. So we'll try to stop here. It's almost 4:15 today. So we'll continue in the next class.